Y is recorded in front of a live studio audience.
If there's one thing I know about that dog is that she's going to come home from the spa with like lip fillers and
Oh, she definitely will.
yeah,
And nails. She'll get her nails done for sure.
yeah, her
Probably with
teeth.
like the little like flowers on them. I was like,
Hmm.
let me just do one. And then next thing you know, you've
Right.
got a whole like scenescape.
Yeah. No. And then I mean, she's definitely doing teeth whitening.
Oh, for sure. But then
Yeah.
she'll go the over whitening where it doesn't even look real. That's like not cool.
I mean, they don't look real. I have
No.
never seen a set of teeth going in so many different directions.
Oh, you haven't seen, well, you never met Ringo or
True.
Captain in person. I mean,
Right.
my
Fran will give them a
dog's,
run for their money.
what pug did I just saw a famous pug I was going to send to you.
She's got a snaggletooth like nobody's business.
Oh,
Just
so
there's
does,
one, but then they're all,
mm-hmm.
you know,
Captain had that too.
they're
All like
flea like that.
overlapped and
Oh no, nothing overlaps. They're just,
just snaggly.
yeah.
That's the
Um,
best.
yeah, they're kind of, I don't know. It's kind of like the Beatles. They're all going off and doing their own side projects,
That's
all of
fine.
them. Yeah.
I
So,
mean, as long as it works for her, that gives her character.
yeah, give her something.
Think of all
Uh,
the like famous people with cool teeth gaps and
yeah, no, I think when I see the dog, I definitely think of Lauren Hutton. What am I supposed
right.
to?
You are. Or the girl from White Lotus that's like everyone's in love with. I'm forgetting her name, which is terrible. Amy something.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. We're going to a White Lotus themed party tomorrow.
How do we feel about that?
I will only be okay with it if there are gays at that party trying to kill me.
Well, I was going to say you either have to be murdered,
Right.
you have to be a gay, someone trying to murder someone,
Mm.
or are you going to go naked?
I wasn't planning on it.
Because you should go naked and make sure that like you show your schlong, because that's what everybody,
Mm.
there's
That's right.
always
Yeah,
at
you're
least
right. You're right. You're
one
gratuitous shot in there.
gratuitous
Yeah.
shot, and then you have to tell everyone that there is no prosthesis,
Good
because
idea.
everyone always makes sure to like
Yeah,
explain
yeah,
that.
that's a good point. Very good point. All
Hmm.
right. Well, I'm gonna have to rethink my outfit now.
I know. What season? Is it like season specific or
I don't
no?
think so.
So that's going to be interesting because I hope, like, are they going to do
It's
like,
gonna be a
because,
lot of people yelling "Pop" or "No," like, and
oh, see that. But
you
see,
know,
because if I was going to do it, I
you
would
go as
either,
F. Murray Abraham.
I would, no, I would, I would make each, like, I don't know, you'd either have to make it season specific
Mm.
or you'd have to do like each room or the foods and drinks would have to encompass
Mm.
every season. Like you'd have to make it all part of it. Like you can't
Right,
hodgepodge it. You've got to go
right.
all in.
Maybe I'll go as the hotel manager from season one,
The um the guy that
the secretly closeted guy whose face is covered in coke for most of the
yes,
yeah, and is
he's
just
amazing. He's
sweating
the
profusely.
best. He's the best because he's been in like so many things. He's like one of
Yeah.
the I love him.
This is Why, with your hosts, Heidi Hedquist and Luke Poling.
Congratulations on the film.
Thank you
It
so much.
is it's such an emotional journey, and there's so much honesty to it. Um,
Did you
did you
watch it?
ever kind of feel like I did? Yes. Yes, we did.
Oh my goodness, the whole thing?
Yep.
Oh my God,
Quiz
I'm
me.
so excited. I'm excited. Okay, I want to hear your feedback because you're just meeting me and you can be just as honest as you want, but I need the test drive feedback.
No, it's a really emotional story that goes in a bunch of different directions that every time you think it's gonna, you know where it's headed, it does not head that way. Um, and it's one of those things where in the back of your mind you're thinking, this probably turns out all right, because she is able to stand in front of us and tell this story. But it is a harrowing, very difficult ride to sometimes be sitting in the passenger seat, let alone being the one sort of trying to control this vehicle as it's going down the road. You're nodding your head. Yes.
Yes, yes, much like menopause.
What,
Yeah. Cruising through that right now.
and people always say, like jokingly after things like, "Oh, well, that's going in my autobiography," or that's the first chapter of my autobiography. What was the reason you thought was the time now to take all these stories in your life and combine them into one film that is an overarching story in and of itself?
Well, um, I thought the time was before now. It
Oh,
just took this long, right? Because I made
that's
a
art for you.
yeah, I promised my younger self that I would write about this on the other side. Okay, because when I was going through approaching perimenopause in my late 40s, I could not find any woman who could even remember her experience, as you noted with my mother. Women who clearly were well past menopause who would not admit it. I'm too young. Or women like the Birkenstock crystal wearing earth mothers who I refuse to go through it. Oh, and I'm like, if you live, or if you're fortunate enough to live this long, why would you not? Why would you think that you could refuse?
Right.
So there was no one. I did see an episode of Oprah. She had a Dr. Christine Northrup on the show, and I bought the book immediately, but it didn't speak to my symptoms. It didn't speak to my experience. It talked about pharmaceuticals, which I had no access to, didn't know which ones I would take. And if I did know, I did not have the medical insurance, which is still unavailable today.
Right.
So I made that promise. And then I went through the 12-year journey. And so in 2019, I started to write about it. And then I thought, okay, let me turn this into a stage play since I'm an actor. And then it was like, wow, I've written something that would be exhausting to perform 8 shows a week. I'm going to make a film, and then that way it can live for other women coming behind me. So I made the film, and it took 2 years through post-production, raising money, getting it to being released June 12th. But in that, and another intention was to get women talking about it because it was taboo. And
Right.
I wanted to bust some of the myths around menopause, which is, you're over, you're done, you're through, and to take your power, because when I was going through it, most of the self-help books had to do with women getting men. Men are from Mars, women are from Venus. The rules
Yes. Oh my God, the
to
rules.
perform to get a man, and so therefore you didn't want to say, I'm approaching menopause, or I'm going through hot sweats, and and all mood swings and things like that, because men, of course, and Luke, you may be completely different, but they want you to be juicy, perky, and being able to have babies. So women today can look younger and be younger and youthful than our grandmothers, or even our mothers in some cases. Now I'm not talking about plastic surgery either. We have the luxury of going to the gym, having knowing what foods to eat, um, and just the kinds of things you do to take care of yourself. Beauty is um, a big marketing thing out here. So we can look beautiful, we can look young, but the important thing, what I wanted women to get at the end of the film was that menopause is kind of like a rite of passage. It should be like a bat mitzvah. People should celebrate because now you do not have to concern yourself with being a mother and giving your life to the raising of children. You can now do that thing you've always wanted to do because we've always wanted to do something. And some of us have pushed it down so deep, we don't even recall what it is. And then some of, I've heard stories of women, and even here in Detroit, artists just one day buying some canvas and painting and then selling the work for $10,000.
Yeah.
Well, where did that come from?
That's a very Detroit story. That's what we do in our city, right? We just do amazing things whenever. Doesn't matter how old we are, where it comes from.
But it was always there, but
Right.
what you didn't have it high on your list because
Right.
you didn't even think you were
Right.
worthy, or whatever
Right.
the case is.
It's
But
just
now
when,
you do.
right.
And so and plus the largest demographic of women in the United States are in some stage of menopause, the largest. We have women who run for president, are governors of our state.
Yep.
Governor Whitmer has taken on the initiative of menopause.
Yeah.
Met her at the governor's mansion with Holly Berry, who is the face of menopause. And I'm part of the Michigan Women's Commission. We do town halls and we go
Amazing.
around and the women come and the doctors are there and storytellers and sex therapists. And the women are chomping at the bit to talk. Well, what about, this is happening to me. When and we do not have enough medically trained doctors in this area because you only get 1 hour in medical school on menopause.
Which is insane.
Insane.
Because it lasts forever, first of all. And Halle Berry's story is insane. And what those doctors put her through when she tells a story of where, which I'm sure you know it, but for listeners who maybe don't, and I told Luke this story so he knows, but where she and her partner were basically treated like they basically told her she had the worst case of raging herpes they'd ever seen. And she and her partner, who were monogamous, both were like, I don't have herpes. And he's like, promise we're not cheating on each other. And obviously, she's had some traumatic relationships in her past, which have been very public. And so they both went through this horrifically traumatic experience of going, how do we have herpes? And it literally was, she was going through menopause and experiencing like some female situations that were causing some problems in that area, that if the doctor had just talked to her about it, but her doctor had no
Didn't even
clue,
know.
had no clue. And so she had to go to a different doctor. And they were like, you do not have anything of the sort. This is all it is. Sorted it out. And now everything's dandy. So that's why she kind of, after severe trauma, is like, I'm going to go sort this out for people everywhere. But I mean, it's amazing. And think of, you, Hallie, Gretchen, like those are some pretty, like three pretty hot, sexy women out there representing, and that's a pretty broad age range of hot, sexy women out there. And plus, it is liberating. I spent my whole life being terrified because I love children more than anything, but never wanted to be a mother. I always wanted to be an aunt. So I spent my entire life being terrified of getting pregnant, terrified. There is nothing more exciting to me than not being afraid of getting pregnant. So
To be
I
able
am
to
very
say,
excited about that fact.
to be able to admit that just because I'm a woman and I'm a female, that I want to be a mother. I never thought of myself as becoming a mother. I mean, of course, it's a possibility, but and then I talk about postpartum depression because again, women don't talk about not bonding with their kid. We hear stories of the Susan Smiths.
Mhm.
We hear stories of the women leaving their babies in garbage cans and on doorsteps of churches. But I would judge those women in the past.
Right.
But now I understand, being somebody that teaches storytelling and working with different agencies here addressing maternal mortality, that a lot of women are going through postpartum, but now we know about it, and so they give you a list of symptoms. But a lot of the women would tell their stories. I got home, I was so depressed, I put the baby in the baby seat, and I drove back to the hospital to give it back. Just
Yeah,
psychosis.
right.
And if his son goes untreated, it gets worse. So I just thought, oh my God, I'm just a bad, terrible mother. And I, because what else could it be? And we're held to such a high standard of mothering. We're supposed to be perfect. It brings out our nurturing gene. And when that's not happening, and you look around at all the other mothers, your sisters, and they seem happy and changing a diaper is,
Oh.
I'm going through this hell and I have to pretend smile and not say anything. It was hell.
And I'm imagining after performing this, you must have gotten a, a huge amount of stories from people coming up to you and saying, "You are telling my story."
Yes. Sorry.
Yeah.
We had Q&As after and
Hmm.
couldn't get the women out of the theater. I had a soft screening of the film because I wanted to see did it translate from the stage to film. Couldn't get the women out. They wanted to talk about everything. We even filmed the Q&As. And one woman said, well, I want to talk about sex. Let's talk about, or fibroids, or all the things that we don't talk about. So that was another purpose of the film, for to open up, because once you start to talk, once you open up the stories, then everyone's chomping at the bit. I just needed to know that there was a space for my story to exist in. And
Hmm.
then you have a whole community. Can you imagine the largest demographic in the United States are women in some stage of menopause, and that gets to be your community of support?
That's
That,
Yeah.
amazing.
And
Amazing.
it's so interesting too the way it's shot. There's I feel like the vast majority of the shots are close-ups on you or medium shots on you, and there's not a ton of the audience. That there's very much a sense that we are going on this journey with you, and we hear the applause and or laughter and gasps and such, but it really creates a very intense bond with you as a storyteller because you are right there in our faces admitting things that very few people would admit to friends, let alone a room full of was that something, have you always been like that, or was this
you
part of the
mean
process of
forthcoming?
learning?
Forthcoming?
Yes, exactly.
No,
Yeah.
no. Before menopause, I was socialized like every other woman. Nice, be nice. Don't say what you really think. That's terrible, because you want to hold on to these fake relationships because you think that there's value in just having somebody there, you know. And
Hmm.
when I started to go through the mood swings, I caught, I would catch myself being honest. And then I would be horrified that I was being honest because of the reaction of the people, my coworkers or my friends. And I just saw these, I would wake up sometimes and go, you're going to have to apologize to at least 3 people today. And then I realized there's actually some value. Why was I even in relationship with this person? This person isn't, I don't really have any kind of thing in common. We met this way, but she's not or he's not. And so it became a clearinghouse. I stopped doing certain things. I was smoking cigarettes. I stopped smoking cigarettes. Um, and that was a relationship.
Mm.
I had these relationships with things and people that really weren't valuable in the sense of what I consider value in friendships today. they were just people that were there to distract me from my life and the things that I had to face in my life. And so I wanted to say to women, menopause is the opportunity to look at your life, your past, come to terms with it, forgive yourself for it, accept yourself for who and what you are, figure out what it is you want to do with your life, and become the CEO of your life. And then you see the past begin to roll up like a carpet, and there's nothing behind you, only a canvas that's empty in front of you to paint a future. And I got married again, you know.
Mhm.
This man had been coming to my shows for 8 months. I have a show called The Secret Society of Twisted Storytellers. And he'd been coming to my show for 8 months. And when he approached me for a date, I was like, oh my God, he knows more about me. I don't know anything.
That's amazing.
I went to the Apple store to have my computer looked at, and I had podcast on national NPR, and I was telling him what was wrong with my computer. He says, "Oh my God, are you the girl that told that story about the Jewish man?" And I said, "Yes." He goes, "How is that dude?"
I love it. That's great.
Like, oh my God, you're not supposed to.
I
You
love
might as
it.
well have said you have toilet paper on the bottom of your shirt.
And
I
it's
love it.
interesting too the way you throughout your life it seems in the film that it's very much broken into sections, and there's sort of a constant search and a rebirth in many ways, that you're in Parliament, you're in the Brides of Funkenstein, you're doing this music thing that then and now everybody looks at and says that, wow, this is great, this is wonderful, this is so much fun, this is a moving party. And obviously, to be in the middle of a moving party, there there are
There's stuff.
some temptations that go along with that, and some it is not easy to be the good time all the time. And just to get out of that situation and say, I need to change what I'm doing, I need to refocus my life to nothing of all these other things. What did it was it really did it all culminate the way it was in the film, or is there a little bit of poetic license in some of these moments of forgiveness of yourself?
No, I'm telling the truth, and it may sound poetic if I'm a writer, um, but the story about P Funk, that's a whole other film. And I think George, I just George and Carlon and Michael Hampton, they just called me early part of the week. They're on tour, and because I asked him, could I get a quote, for the
Hmm.
he's like, yeah. So he called, but we're a family. But
Mhm.
it was the most exciting, one of the most exciting periods of my life. It was like going to Harvard, the Harvard of performance, because when I came on, they were on the One Nation tour. So they were at the height of fame, flying.
Yeah.
I mean, the hotel, I mean, limos, the whole thing. So we were playing 80,000 to 80,000 people, 20,000 people, Madison Square Gardens, Cotton Bowl, Europe, Paris, Germany, France, um, England. So and then I would learn so much from George and his wisdom, about performance, and about a lot of things in life. He would just walk by with a joint, yeah, and he'll drop some wisdom and keep going. And I'd scratch my head for a couple of months trying to figure out what was that cryptic thing he just said.
Love
But then
it.
there was the drugs, there was the loneliness of the road, there was you call your family on the phone in the hotel room, and when you hung up, the connection was gone. You were your relationships, your family became this kind of a cult. We had our own language, we had our own, we were out there. And it was just it was a weird reality, um, being like gypsies going from town to town performing. And but my experience on stage, the awesome music. It was that was where I lived for, because the creativity of all these musicians. You had Bernie Worrell, who had been trained at Juilliard, and Gary Scheider, who was from Georgia, and was just picked his guitar, and you had this fusion of things. I was trained classically as a vocalist, and then you had these awesome vocal gospel type of sounds, and so it was this. But the way it blended together, the just the feeling of the music taking you over, to watch the audience. They were watching us, and I would think you guys are watching us perform, but I'm watching you guys perform, because I remember one night I'm there, and I see this big woman, big breasts. There were three men around her, and she was into the music. They reached in and brought her breast out and held them up, and she seemed to not even notice. She was just grooving to the
Rocking out.
music. Or people who would run up, I want to ride on the mothership. And George saying later, "Oh, that scared me when they thought that they could take the mothership somewhere. It was an elevator."
I love it. It's
So,
amazing.
and just the bomb threats in Boston. We had to get out of the theater till they cleared it. Then we come back in and perform. Just all of the things and then I was really, I loved to read, and I was reading Stephen King, and I'd be in the dressing room turning the pages, and it's like it's time to hit the stage. So it was like I wanted to get from one world to another world, and so I have no, if you watch some of the documentaries that are out there,
Hmm.
you'll never hear me say anything negative about my experience with them. But he's still out there. So there are different stages of this legacy. And I
Yeah.
happened to come on when I was very thirsty and hungry to learn. And I knew, how else could I do this at this young age, without P-Funk. So
Right.
this was an opportunity, and I'll never uh, deny it or talk negative about it. I mean, Mike Judge, he did Tales from the Tour Bus, and
Mhm.
I didn't know I was auditioning, but he called up, and I'm a storyteller, and he goes, "Yeah, we want you in the film." And then he talked about animating us, but I didn't think anything about it until I saw it, and he made us into cartoon characters like Beavis and Butthead.
Uh-huh.
It's like, oh my God. And I'm still getting royalty checks,
It's
and
awesome.
from Atomic Dog, basically, because so
I mean,
it never stops. I'm here talking to you about it
yeah.
all these years later. So, but it was all of the exciting things that I'm telling you, the quality of the music, and I started out to say that I believe they're making a movie of George, and
Hmm.
Eddie Murphy is going to play George.
Oh,
So
that'll be a trip.
that's a whole other generation.
Yeah.
Right.
And if anybody can do it, Eddie can do it.
Yes, for sure he
Yeah.
could.
And it just seems too, of all the groups to be with, and of all the people to learn at the feet of when it comes to performance in any way, you pretty much got a master's in, like, never mind undergraduate. You went straight to graduate level of
Yeah.
performance and how to hook an audience and how to bring them along with what you're doing.
Yeah.
It's so interesting because I just feel like throughout the film, like I said, there's almost chapters of it, and there's elements of you just saying, "I need to." Has there always been that sort of inner voice or inner block, kind of going like, "Something's got to change. I got to fix the things that I'm not happy with in the moment." Are you always sort of like looking on how I can make this better?
Well, I've always been very introspective, and I have always been attracted to transformation. I mean, whether you're transforming into something better or devolving into something. So it was like, even when we were freebasing out there with the drugs and stuff like that, the transformation of your character, of your person, and then you go to a certain point and you go, who am I? And so that question always sits on my shoulder. Who am I? Who am I really? And that because I thought I was this, and then I discovered no, that's not. And then I thought I was that, and I wasn't that. And so each of these life, I guess, when your life changes, life altering moments, I got into that question and then made changes to my life. But the steady thread that moved through is that I'm an artist, and artists do more than sing and write and perform. Artists want to get underneath what it is to be human, and how do I express that. So for me, I began to write the story, but I realized I'm not linear. If you can see how I'm talking with you now, I'm
You
back a
don't
little.
say. Yeah.
But I hope that I wrap up the story, that the story I'm telling does have a beginning, middle, and end, even if I start at the end and give you the middle and the beginning somewhere else. So I was wondering, how am I going to tell this? How am I going to tell this story? And that I don't even remember, how I answered that question. It became a discovery, like a puzzle. Oh, maybe I could flash back here and then move forward, and then flash back and move forward, and then just keep moving forward. Maybe that's how menopause is. So you won't hear me talking a lot about menopause itself or pharmaceuticals. You'll hear me talking more about entering into this stage of life and what it had to offer me through the tragedy of my son having the car accident, having to come back to the hospital I gave birth to my son in, and having to come tell the truth uh, to not only myself but my ex-husband and the audience.
And I think that's one of the most powerful moments in the film. You open up with this idea of getting on the plane to Hawaii, and I don't want to be a mother. I'm not ready for this. And then you flash forward, was it 21, 22 years? And suddenly, like you say in the film, like you get a second opportunity to do this. Like you get to be here for him when he needs you most. And that must have been such a great gift in many ways to be able to have that experience and sort of redo something that you were in the midst of dealing with a whole mess of other things at the time.
Yes. And every fear that I had, him flying out of his car seat, which he did, and when he was 19 and in that accident,
Hmm.
changing diapers, all those things, instead of resentment, it was gratitude because he's alive.
Mhm.
And I
Yeah.
get to take, and I'm ready for this, and us being able to talk and listen to each other, which I think is one of the most powerful things that any human being can do, particularly listen as a service. It's a profound service you give to someone, which is what you're giving me right now. You're giving me listening, which how many people actually get to be heard? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It's
Hmm.
not something to take for granted, and I think we don't take it for granted. We just assume we're not going to be listened to, and we know when we're not being heard. We know when somebody's not listening, and
Mhm.
we know when those times are darkest, that people kind of want to shy away from you, or they'll say, "Oh yeah, my grandmother passed away. I understand what you're going through," and every loss is every loss is a loss. But every loss is not the same. I remember going to a grief support group, my sister and I, when we lost our mother, and then when I lost my son, and they were going around the room talking about who they lost. And there was this Korean woman, she started out saying, "I lost my brother, and that's okay, but I lost my bird." And she started to talk about her bird, and I was almost dying laughing until she started to describe the loss. And
Mhm.
then I saw that her loss was no different than my loss, that it left a hole in her soul, that whatever that bird gave her was something special and something good and rich for her. And so when people say my dog died or my cat died, I don't, I treat that highly, you know, I
Yeah.
respect. Mhm.
Well, it's the film is lovely, but I mean the root of all of it is the storytelling and the way you thread this needle of telling this amazing story and sort of letting the audience go along with you on it. Um, there's not a lot in it that I can relate to on a one-to-one basis, believe it or not, but there's so much of it that I can relate to on another basis. And I think that, I mean, as a storyteller in any form, any art form is trying to tell your story. And I think you do it really, really well in the film and in the performance. There are moments of it is a difficult watch at times because of what you're going through, but I think at the end of it, you kind of feel like, all right, we've achieved some grace, some peace. Do you feel that way?
Um, do I feel like in the end I achieved some grace?
That yeah, sort of reached a peace with perhaps yourself, or you're
Oh
happy with
yes.
the current
Oh
iteration
yes.
of
Oh yes. I am, I feel free, you know, like a burden. I felt this before the film, before I got to the film, but in sharing the story, I find even in your conversation I'm having with you, it makes me feel even more free.
Confessions of a Menopausal Femme Fatale, a stand-up storytelling concert film by Satori Shakoor, is now available to stream on Amazon Prime, Apple TV, and Google Play. For more information, you can check out her website, satorishakoor.com.
Why the Podcast is produced by the Professional Production Company. Please be sure to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts because we're shallow and need constant validation. For more information, you can check out our website, whythepodcast.com. And like everyone else, we're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Today's show was recorded and produced by Heidi Hedquist and myself from our world headquarters located on the second floor of the professional office building, centrally located downtown. Our reluctant executive producers are John Sauvé and Sandy Stone. Our willing producers are Rachel Allen and Randy Jeanette. Our intern is Zach Jackson. This one's for Philippe. Thanks for joining us. Flash, we're coming home.
Nigel, is that you? Are you here, Nigel?